Hotep, Black Power, giving honor to the Creator, giving honor to the ancestors, also giving honor to my sister, Chief of Staff, Brother Harris Abdul, other street law soldiers, my father, my in-laws, and all of our ancestors, as well as your ancestors as well, and to all you brothers and sisters that are out there fighting for the liberation and salvation of our black nation. Today we're going to, it's been 53 years since the assassination of Malcolm X, you know, so we want to pay tribute to the brother today, you know. El Haj Malik El Shabazz, Oba Wally, Malcolm Little, Malcolm X, however you want to describe the brother. Powerful brother, powerful brother. And I'm not going to go, like I said, I'm not going to go into a whole bunch of statistics, just some of the basic things about Malcolm, some of the most important things, some of the most pivotal points in his life when he was here in that form, physical form. So, you know, born 1925 in Omaha, Nebraska, to Earl and Louise Little. And, you know, everybody knows that he was just pimp, hustler, you know, drug addict, and, you know, pimp, all of those things. Everyone knows all of those things. And then in 1946, he went on in the prison from, you know, as always, fucking with the white bitch, you know, him and his buddy, guy Malcolm, Shorty Jarvis, I think they got 11 10-year sentences to run concurrent. And while he was there, you know, there was a brother in there, Brother Baines, helped him embrace the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And Malcolm was, you know, Malcolm bought in. He bought into it immediately, you know, cut the comp out his hair, which was, that's an old name for a perm, you know, left pork alone, wrote the entire dictionary, word for word, you know, from aardvark to zebra, you know, and very, very self-taught, you know. Elijah Muhammad came to his cell. It wasn't in a dream. You know, his energy came to visit Malcolm in his cell to confirm that he was a soldier, you know, and what Malcolm needed to do once he was released. And he went and he met the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his wife, Sister Clara Muhammad. You know, they embraced him, took Malcolm into the bosom of Islam. You know, and Malcolm was on the streets, you know, plumbing law, you know, and selling those Final Call newspapers, you know. He started off as a street soldier, very committed, you know. Muhammad Ali took a liking into Malcolm, and they both began to be very, very tight. In which, in the end, Muhammad Ali said that was the only thing that he regretted in his life was when, you know, he turned his back on Malcolm, based on the fact about Elijah Muhammad impregnating all those secretaries, and when Elijah and the nation went against Malcolm, by Ali being a committed follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, you know, he followed suit and went against Malcolm as well. You know, But when he met the sister Betty Shabazz, you know, beautiful queen, beautiful committed queen. She stuck with Malcolm too, and not just to the end of his stay here, but to the end of her stay. You know, and you know, Minister Farrakhan went out there and outright lied and said that Malcolm had issues with women, which he didn't. Malcolm respected and admired and adored excuse me, the black woman. You know, and you could tell by the relationship he had with his wife. He never fooled around. You know, I think he got 6 girls out of his marriage with Sister Betty. You know, and Elijah Muhammad, as he always talked about the mothership, which was, you know, I believe that Elijah Muhammad was ahead of his time, because that went over a lot of people's heads, even high-ranking officials in the Nation of Islam, that they couldn't fathom the concept that Elijah Muhammad was talking about as far as the mothership. And we'll get down with that at a later date. Like I said, Ali and Malcolm were, you know, close, along with Sam Cooke. Those 3 brothers really was putting in work, because Ali was putting in a lot of work for the nation. Now, the situation with Martin Luther King, that people thought that King and Malcolm did not get along or they never met, and that's completely, totally bogus. That's bullshit. As a matter of fact, when Malcolm said that Martin said that he had felt as though the I Had a Dream speech was a nightmare, this is when he linked up with Malcolm. And together, those 2 were putting together an agenda that would be a peaceful agenda as long as the opposition was peaceful. And when they got rowdy, then, you know, the Nation of Islam, along with the NAACP and SNCC, was going to go hard. Because you had Stokely Carmichael and Fred Hampton that was in SNCC and the NAACP. And SNCC, for those who don't know what that is, that's the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. Malcolm's father, Earl Little, was a straight-up Garveyite, and he preached the teachings of Marcus Garvey, and which was one of the main reasons Earl Little was murdered by the Ku Klux Klan when Malcolm was 6. They came up to Earl Little's house, to the shack that they lived in, took him out of the shack, and they said that it was an accidental suicide or something, that a train ran over him. And the Klan had murdered Earl Little. So, and Louise Little was placed in a mental institution. They also followed Brother Robert Williams, who was down in North Carolina, Negroes with Guns. And they did a movie, but they just changed the names, and Forrest Whitaker was the star of that movie, called Deacons for Defense. That really was about Brother Robert Williams. And Robert Williams, who he and his wife were fugitives for many years, based on the fact that in North Carolina, they weren't going to allow the Klan and other white supremacist groups down there to just do what they want to them. Also, Noble Drew Ali of the Moore Science Temple of America, who is always, he's always under, he's not recognized and given his proper due as well. But when you get a chance, look up Noble Drew Ali, who was ahead of his time as well, born out of due season. And he had a lot more to drop and give. However, he was murdered as well by Chicago police. You know, Malcolm followed the divine instructions of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He was committed. He loved that man to no end. Malcolm loved Elijah Muhammad to no end. You know, and Malcolm just went around preaching, debating anyone that was anyone that wanted to challenge him. He also went to Yale, Princeton, Brixton, all those schools over in London, England, you know, and debated so-called highly educated Europeans. And you know, the jealousy in the nation was very, very high. There's a lot of haters that hated on Malcolm, you know, and they stayed in Elijah Muhammad's ear, you know, based on the fact that Malcolm was so good, he made others look bad. And so, you know, when one is comfortable in his own funk and filth, then they don't want anybody to pull their card on that type of thinking, on that type of living. So, you know, it was, the orders were put in for the death of Brother Malcolm. You know, that Elijah Muhammad, I believe he had 6 or 7 children by 3 or 4 young queens. And if you look in true Islam, even if you look at Kemetic history and Kemetic teachings, you will see that, you know, our leaders and pharaohs had more than one wife, you know, that they had several concubines and the like. But I think if Elijah had been straightforward with Malcolm from the beginning, then things might have had a different outlook. And so the tension was beginning to build up, you know. And when Ali beat Sonny Liston, which took Ali to new heights, and because they called him the Louisville Lip. He was always saying something with rhymes and frying people, you know, predicting what round he was going to punish people and take them out in, and all of those things. Very, very highly confident brother. And, you know, when he beat Sonny Liston, about 4 or 5 years later, Sonny Liston was found murdered in his home too. Patrice Lumumba, who was the Malcolm X of the Congo, you know, and what they did with him, because Patrice Lumumba wanted independence from British and English colonization, colonialism, you know, and British rule in Africa. And so what they did was, United States was involved, CIA personnel was involved, and they got together along with these British white supremacists and scooped Patrice Lumumba up, shot him, you know, over 100 times, cut his body in pieces, and put him in a barrel with acid. So Patrice Lumumba was a very, very powerful brother. He loved his people, and he wanted to close the gap and bridge the gap between United States and Africa, and it never got a chance to take off due to the fact that these crackers called the CIA, Central Ignorance Association, took that brother's life. You know, Malcolm rapped, you know, Islamic God, you know, at his homegoing service. Beautiful brother, beautiful brother. You know, Betty Shabazz was questioned, and see, what they wanted to do was gauge the hatred that Betty Shabazz had behind sitting there with her children, watching her husband, these children watching their father murdered right in front of them. They said Malcolm had 21 shots, 21 holes in him. And coming from this guy here, W.D. Fard, they call him by so many names. But those are the teachings that have been passed down to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in the Nation of Islam. You know, Clarence 13X. He was in the Nation of Islam, and he branched out and got a organization called the Nations of Gods and Earths, where the brothers are gods and the sisters are earths. You know, and they have to read the, they have to study the 120s, 120 questions. You know, they have to know before they're able to plumb law in the streets or anything like that. They have to know, you know, all of the rules, all of the regulations, the entire agenda of the Nations of Gods and Earths, which is not too different from this combination of Moor science and the Nation of Islam. Yeah, this is Malcolm in the streets pumping those papers, you know, pumping those newspapers. And like I said, he was dedicated and committed. And this is up in Harlem. You know, he had started standing on the ladder, you know, on Saturday mornings. You know, he may have had 4 or 5 people around, but it ended up, you know, in the hundreds coming to hear Malcolm speak. And so that's where the jealousy came from. You know, Louis X, who is Mr. Louis Farrakhan now, you know, he had jealousy and hatred for Malcolm in his heart too. Malcolm's grandson, who emulated his grandfather, Malcolm Shabazz, which that's his name, emulated his father. Yet he was charged with attempted murder, setting his grandmother Betty Shabazz on fire, which he didn't deliberately set her on fire. We found out later on that he was mad and he burnt one of the kitchen curtains, and the fire spread it, and it got a hold to it. And Betty got set on fire as the fire had spread it in the house. But he wasn't. You know, they made him seem like he was a monster, which he wasn't. And you know, he was murdered over in Mexico. He was murdered. It was a setup. It's been said that Barack Obama had a lot to do with that, because Obama went to Mexico a week before Malcolm Shabazz did and met with the same people that Malcolm Shabazz met with. And so when Malcolm Shabazz goes over there, he's thrown off a roof by those same people that to this day still stay and communicate with Barack Obama. You know, Malcolm, you know, studied anything that was dealing with black liberation and salvation. Malcolm got down with it. And that's what made him so powerful, because of him being so receptive and open to different teachings. Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark. I mean, he studied everybody. You know, and especially in debates, on television show debates, you know, awesome brother. Awesome brother. And Minister Farrakhan, who took Malcolm's place, I believe Minister Farrakhan was the national spokesman around the late 70s, I believe. I'm not positively sure. And this is Malcolm Shabazz being taken into custody by New York City detectives. And that's Betty Shabazz a month before the accident. Let's give Malcolm his due. Powerful brother. Powerful brother. And we just, you know, I just wanted to take this time, take those few minutes and just, you know, give Brother Malcolm his props. Something that is due to him. And I hope you got something out of it. You know, if not, just send your energy to Brother Malcolm. You know, Hotep. I want to also talk about another brother, Charles Sonny Liston. You know, the forgotten chant. You know, sometimes we can get caught up in, you know, allowing white supremacy and the power structure to tell us who our heroes and sheroes are, which they have no idea. You know, we have allowed that to happen for so many years. But yet, Sonny Liston was a powerful brother, but lonely at the same time, in terms of being a champion, being a world champion. And very, very powerful brother, you know. And, you know, he was born in 1932. Because he doesn't have a birth certificate. He actually doesn't know when he was actually born, but he just put a number. He just said 1932, you know, and he was murdered in 1970. So, brother was very, very awesome. He was, he started out being on the streets. He had an abusive father, where they lived on a farm in Arkansas. And so when the mule died, his father told him, since the mule died, you're going to have to be the mule. And Sonny was about 11 years old at the time. So you can imagine what his father made him do if he was to play the role of a mule. And Sonny was the 24th of 25 children. And so you can imagine the poverty, how intense the poverty level was on that shack that they lived in Arkansas. At 12 years old, Sonny ran and went to Missouri. And that's where he got into a lot of trouble at, because he was big for his size. And he repeatedly kept getting locked up because he was robbing people, strong-arming people, and he got a job being a henchman for the White Guineas, you know. And at that time, at 12 years old, he was destined to be a heavyweight fighter, because Burt Sugar said that Sonny had a left jab from hell. And, you know, he was just knocking people out, breaking all types of bones in their faces and, you know, all types of shit. And he ended up going to Missouri State Penitentiary for 5 years. He met a priest, a priest that was running the boxing program there at Missouri State Pen. And Sonny would spar and box 3 guys at a time in the ring. And he would knock all 3 of them out. Very, very highly athletic, as you can see. But one of the things that was a hindrance in Sonny's life was Cassius Clay at the time. Now he's Muhammad Ali, so I'm going to say Muhammad Ali for the sake of understanding. And so Liston beat everybody. And when it came to Floyd Patterson, who was the belt holder, he annihilated Floyd Patterson. And when Floyd Patterson was asked what was the worst thing about the fight, he said signing the contract. And so Ali had to fight Liston. This was for the title. This was for the belt, to be the undisputed unified champion. And as you can see, Liston was continually annihilating people, you know, destroying them. And when it was time to meet Ali, Ali really played mind games with Liston. You know, a lot of psychological warfare with Sonny Liston. You know, and you know, even at the weigh-in, Ali just taunted him, you know, and got into Liston's head. You know, and then when the fight came, Ali, you know, like when Ali said, "I shook up the world," he literally shook up the world. I mean, he was just so fast. And what they did, they had got so pissed off because of Ali's, you know, superb conditioning and his expertise in the ring. They began to put an ointment on Liston's gloves, so to try to temporarily blind Ali. You know, and Ali fought a whole round, not able to see. And that was the round that Liston won. You know, and they, you know, the world never seen anyone that could weave and stand there and not get hit, you know, with punches the way Ali did. You know, and then when Ali, you know, after the rope-a-dope, Ali just went to town on Liston. You know, went to town on him. And that's when destruction, you know, destruction came to the point where he knocked Liston out. That was the second fight. Now let's go back, and I'm just going to be going back and forth as far as the fights. The second fight was, you know, Liston fell down. Liston didn't get hit. He didn't get knocked out. He was just so frustrated, like Duran was on the second fight with Leonard. You know, that they couldn't take being, you know, embarrassed and made a fool of, you know, and so they literally quit. But Liston did it that way by falling down, pretending to be knocked out. And Duran just walked out of the ring. You know, and that's the first fight. And that's when Liston refused to come out. I think He refused to come out for the 9th round or something like that. You know. And that made Ali the victor. You know. And everybody they hated Ali, but they wanted him to beat Liston. You know. Which was crazy. You know. But Liston was, you know, he had a lot of good friends. You know, here he is with Joe Louis. You know, a lot of good friends. And he wasn't that, you know, he wasn't that monster that people claimed that he was. You know, get the book. You know, The Devil and Sonny Liston. You know, it's on Amazon. And, you know, and Liston, he still fought after the 2 Ali fights. And I think that, you know, he never fought no major fights like he did when he fought Ali. As a matter of fact, I think he lost another fight, you know, as he got older. And what happened, the same thing with Mike Tyson. Now, pay close attention. When the Guineas began to lose money on Liston, and Liston was finished with boxing, and they wanted him to continue to fight because they wanted him to throw a fight, which he didn't. I forgot the guy's name. With Henry Cooper, it was somebody that they wanted him to throw the fight. He refused to do it. And his wife, Geraldine, went out of town. And they came into Sonny's house, you know, and murdered him by way of giving him heroin, you know, an injection of heroin. Now, the thing about the injection, Liston was afraid of needles and syringes. That's why he never fought outside the United States, because you have to take a certain amount of shots. And Liston refused to take those shots. So all of his fights were in the States. You know. He was in the house dead for about a week. You know. And his wife, Geraldine, I believe she was the one that found him. And their adopted son. You know. So, and that's what they did to him for refusing to throw the fights. Now, in Mike Tyson's case, when Tyson walked away from boxing after he, a lot of people lost millions betting on him, like the Lennox Lewis fights and other fights that he could have easily won. The real Mike Tyson would have easily won those fights, but he lost them. And the